Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Friday, September 13th. The government has taken a great deal of flack post-Hurricane Dorian, but Director of the Pacific Disaster Center, Dr. Aaron Huey, insists there's nothing more the Minnis administration could have done in preparing for a storm of Hurricane Dorian's size and intensity.
Your building codes are some of the strongest in the Western Hemisphere. The commitment to disaster management that NEMA and the Family Islands have placed to build disaster resilient communities is really unmatched. So I think when you're talking about a really mammoth storm like this, an event, the best thing we can do is help support the people that were impacted. And in that respect, I believe very strongly that NEMA has developed quite a robust structure that is able to work with the incoming, just the number of NGOs and international community that are supporting it. They're able to absorb it, task them effectively, and get resources out. And that is very commendable.
Furthermore, she doesn't think that challenges experienced here in the Bahamas are unique. Dr. Huey says, as with any other archipelago or island nation, the biggest challenge right now is getting information, transporting goods from point A to point B, and tracking individuals to ensure they're provided the right level of support. When asked if she thinks mandatory evacuation should be necessary, here's the response.
It's going to take a very resilient nation to commit to rebuilding these communities and rebuilding them in a way that is safe and prepared for climate change.
In terms of rebuilding, Dr. Huey says she's unable to give an estimated price tag as many variables stand in the way.
The problem is, and even in the U.S. and in many parts of the world, even those that have mandatory evacuation, you cannot physically force someone to leave. And somebody's attachment to place is very strong. And I think we need to understand the social, the psychosocial components of disasters. There are a lot of people suffering. They may still have their home, but the trauma of experiencing something like that. And we also need to support the people that are serving as host families and to community members here in Nassau. My understanding is in Eleuthera and Grand Bahama, elsewhere, because that is a long-term commitment, and it really is going to take support of the entire nation.
Dr. Huey says Dorian is an example of the changing landscape of disaster management. It illustrates, she says, the need not only to rely on historic information, but continued efforts to advance understanding climate change and how it will continue to impact the islands. The National Emergency Management Agency is continuing to monitor a potential tropical cyclone. This means a tropical storm warning remains in effect for the islands of the Northwest Bahamas. That includes Eleuthera, Andros, New Providence, Abaco, Grand Bahama, Bimini, and the Berry Islands. Now, a tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions could affect the mentioned islands within 36 hours. Here's Director of the Department of Meteorology, Trevor Baston.
At 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the center of the disturbance was located near latitude 25.1 degrees north, longitude 75.3 degrees west, or about 52 miles to the east of Savannah Sound, Eleuthera, or 128 miles to the east of New Providence, which puts it at about 140 miles southeast of Marsh Harbor and Abaco, or about 235 miles east-southeast of Freeport, Grand Bahama. And this motion is expected to continue for the next day or two, moving towards the northwest near 6 miles per hour.
Mr. Basin says the system appears to be rather stationary at this time, reiterating that it's a potential tropical cyclone.
Tropical cyclone is a tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane. But because it has the potential to become a tropical cyclone within the Bahamas, we must issue some warning. And it has the potential to become a tropical storm, 39 miles per hour and greater, while within the Bahamas. So it is impingent upon us, in consultation with the National Hurricane Center, to issue a tropical storm warning.
Meantime, advocacy group Rights Bahamas has crunched the numbers it's come up with: 309 Haitian Bahamians who are missing following Hurricane Dorian. Rights Bahamas President Stephanie St. Fleur has compiled a 3-page list for NEMA with the names and pictures of the missing, the majority of them from Abaco.
We've been making contact with the administrators of these shelters, and they call into us and request certain things that let's say example, Fox Hill, they call us that they didn't have stage 5 pampers or diapers. So however we're able to assist them with supplies, that's what we're doing right now. Like he said, the most important thing right now is making sure that there are still people, like right now as we speak, Club Landlord just called me and said that there were 50 persons that were housed there, and the person who put them up cannot afford to house them. So right now that's a priority for us to find shelters for these 50 families right now.
United Haitian Community Front, a newly formed group with about a dozen organizations and a league of pastors, is assisting victims with education, health, and other areas. The front's spokesman, Robinson Dudon, was on the ground in Abaco. He says he saw some people evacuating but not wanting to leave the island. What? Hold on, go back.
The person don't have nothing they can relate to in Nassau. And I think most of us understand island life. People have a tendency, Nassau is like, I guess, Abaco is the new hell, but Nassau is like hell. They come and they do what they have to do, and they go to the airport, they want to go back home. That's island. And that's Bahamians of Haitian descent, and Haitian residents living. They're not attached to Nassau. So one of the reasons some people, and then there's the hope that they better build from scratch, that they can rebuild. So I've heard persons, Bahamians on the island saying, on the phone, I ain't going nowhere. I'm just going to see if I got to be here to rebuild.
The group's education and counseling director is hoping to provide mental health support for the survivors.
We have an organization that's ready to assist us in providing counseling, either one-to-one or group counseling, so that we can help them to debrief, to get into the proper mind frame to continue their education. That's for the children, and of course the parents. One of the persons that have been assisting us, Pastor Barrington Brennan, he has put out this particular flyer, Emotional Wellness After a Hurricane, from which we gathering a lot of material in order to help our kids and adults with their mental health, so that they can remain stable and function optimally as a citizen.
You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.